Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The World Championship in Los Angeles is only a couple of weeks away, and the 16 teams and the 4 groups of 4 have now been officially determined, with all the last chance qualifiers concluding around the world. Some crazy results over the last day or so. Crew Esports making a miracle Cinderella story run all the way to the World Championship, and some of these groups are significantly more difficult than others, at least on paper. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts and the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. As always, plenty to get into. First of all, we'll begin here just because yesterday we talked about Ye and Jake and some drama over there at Cloud9, and Matthew Elmore from Cloud9 says, hey, did he say league minimum? Maybe we sign Ye back for next year. Ye says we might just have to. So he's given his options open. Ye will, I'm sure, be of interest to many of these franchise teams, and Cloud9 again could be one of them if they can figure out a more more fair, at least in their perspective, salary compensation figure that maybe Ye is pretty keen to do. There was also this, though, speaking of Cloud9, I thought was pretty funny, that rhyme of Giants, who of course took them all the way through to Champions qualification, who finds this. He had this saved up, I guess. So MCE said in a Twitch chat at some point, kind of annoying Fnatic is winning the event and getting another free spot for EMEA. Can't wait to see Giants come get owns. So just to make sure like you guys can fully see it, this is what he says. So kind of saying, oh yeah, EMEA didn't deserve another spot, Giants wouldn't, they don't deserve that spot at Champions and all this stuff. And then of course, as it turns out, it's pretty funny that Ryan then says, even if EG won versus Fnatic, you still wouldn't have qualified. Enjoy watching from the crowd. So because Cloud9 fell short of the grand finals in the Americas, even if EG beat Fnatic and got the own spot from their region, Cloud9 still wouldn't have made it, right? And it is crazy to think that a team that went 8-1 in the regular season failed to make any further international events. A team that went 0-9 in the same regular season did manage to make one, and we'll see in a second on exactly what that's going to be. There also was an update here on, you guys might remember this a while ago, there was a bit of drama between TenZ and a player on RRQ, where some, supposedly racist comments were made on stream. We actually saw at the time that after, in the wake of these comments, he was then released by his organisation. Northeptian said, no, that's not acceptable, he's going to go. Riot have actually done their investigation, and they've said, by looking into the various angles on this, that he's going to be suspended for the next 4 VCT matches. Now, I don't believe he's signed to a team anymore, because they dropped him, right, Northeptian. So I'm guessing that going forwards, if he is then brought back into another franchise, then, or another team, wherever, then he will get signed, but then can't play the first 4 games, which is pretty interesting. And the other player involved was issued an official warning letter. So that's just the update for you guys on that one. But let's talk about the various LCQs that concluded. Zeta took down Team Secret 3-1 to advance to the World Championship. Good to see, because Zeta have been in a tough spot for most of this year. They weren't looking that good early on. They turned up a bit, and then when it mattered, they got over the line. Laz, I've got to say, on the Chamber, the Chamber is actually, in Laz's hands, viable again. And it's quite exciting to see, because not like after Chamber got nerfed, nobody went near him. But he still is plausibly quite good in Laz's hands. Maybe something similar to like when Jet was nerfed and you had to double tap to actually do the dashes or whatever. People thought, oh no, it should be useless. But it turns out she's still pretty damn good. So, and we're seeing that a bit with Chamber as well at the moment. So it was 14-12 here on Fracture. We saw this yesterday's video. Then it was 13-9 on Ascent the other way. But then 13-7 split, 13-6 on Lotus. Comfortable in the end. And here's Laz on the Chamber, 22-8 on the Lotus to get over the line on Team Secret's map pick. So very impressive. Zeta make it. Unfortunate for Team Secret failing to make it to the World Championship, as Zeta win the LCQ pretty emphatically. And as Boaster says, Zeta are expected to win this event. And we'll see why this might be relevant when we get down to these groups in the coming minutes here. The other final we saw then was Giants versus Na'Vi. Na'Vi's composition here was pretty standard enough. Not exactly anything special. However, Giants went for the Breach, Omen, Raze, Yoru Chamber composition here on the Binds, which is definitely interesting, to say the least. But it didn't seem to matter, because they won this series anyway. Now, this series, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter that much, but looking back on it from Na'Vi's perspective, they probably will think, damn, would have been quite nice to win this one. So just to be clear, both these teams had already made champions, and I do think the way the format's done on this is always a bit weird. Like, I don't like how Valorant has so many matches that just aren't particularly meaningful. You know, like the finals of these events just don't really mean that much. Now, they actually do mean more than maybe Na'Vi were giving it credit for, just because their group now is just stacked. You know, like Giants will much prefer to be in the position they're in with the seeding they got, rather than losing this series and finding themselves in the group that they could have been in. So definitely Na'Vi would have wanted to win, but it won't necessarily have been a top priority. And we actually see Hoodie here uses the chamber every single map. So again, I'm just going to say that chamber might be a relevant force here come the World Championship. 13-11 on Bind, 13-7 Lotus, 13-9 Havens are kind of competitive, but Giants were, impressively so, clearly the better team in this series, and we'll see what that means in a second. But the Cinderella run was complete in the Americas, with Crew actually winning the LCQ. It's difficult to know exactly what to say about this. We knew that Crew were better than they were given credit for, right? And I think that was pretty obvious for a large part of the season, that a lot of their matches that weren't going their way, they weren't as bad as they looked. And we've had the likes of even artists, I think, from NRG say that Crew are legit. Like, they're a pretty good team. They just haven't shown it so far. They play Lev in the finals. They go up 2-1 in the series. And yeah, despite Klaus going down right here in this 3-versus-1 situation, they do just about get over the line. Starting the season, let's not forget, 0-10. I mean, I don't know if these guys were just saving strats for the last chance qualifier the entire time, but it is crazy. Gotta feel bad for Mazzino as well, in the sense, because he obviously goes over to that Lev side and loses the team that he previously left, especially in the circumstances of this. But I mean, who was actually predicting, apart from Bren, who put it up right, having Crew make the run? But I think that was made in jest. That was not made with the actual belief that Crew would make this run. But they go 5-0, only dropping 3 maps the whole LCQ. Their run on paper just looks so ridiculous. But fair play, I mean, they should have been. I was so confused the entire season why they weren't any good, and they figured it out when it matters. Put it all together. Dephh, obviously, you know, super happy with the result here, you know, starting 0-9 in the league to the first championship, and hopefully they can make a run there, because they're looking pretty respectable. Like, the teams they beat are not bad at all. Like, Lev are a good roster, you know, better than Cloud9, clearly, because they beat them. Sentinels, 100 Thieves, you know, like, all these teams were overcome by the might of Crew Esports that run through the bracket on the last chance they had. The first couple of games they played were loser goes home, no second chances, but they make it work emphatically. And, I mean, yeah, so Mazzino has a tough time, but yeah, cNed, Melter, like, all the guys played well, of course, and they are going to be at the World Championship. Just have a look at this. So this is from last year. Crew Esports, right, at the Red Bull home grounds. They lose to Cloud9 there in the finals in Manchester, and after that, they lose to Na'Vi at the Sao Paulo lock-in event. And then it's 9 losses in a row. Fury, MIBR, EG, 100 Thieves. Lots of these were 2-1s. 0-2 to NRG, 1-2 to Loud, 0-2 to Lev, 0-2 to Sentinels, 1-2 to Cloud9. That was their regular season run. They turn up to the LCQ and they win 5 in a row. I mean, like, it just looks unbelievable this is the case. But, okay, they didn't beat Sen or 100 Thieves, but they outplaced them is the point that I was trying to make earlier on. And they beat Lev again in the finals, this time 3-1. Just pretty comfortable, right? Crazy story. And Sentinels will not be there at the World Championship to contest exactly this one. But these, then, are the groups that we arrive at. So Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, as it usually is. 16 teams at Champions, 1 team wins. The way these groups work is that they play effectively a GSL-style format, where the first round is played, the winner of both of these games play each other, the loser of both of these games play each other, and then if you win 2 matches before you lose 2 matches, you advance to the bracket stage, where 8 teams will go down to 1. So 2 of these teams only can qualify per group. There's no other way around it. That's how it works. Group A, PaperX versus Crew, Edgewood Gaming versus Giants. Very interesting group here, because PaperX are, we believe, going to have something. Crew are, we don't really still know how good they can be, because they are on a big upswing. EDG, we know, are pretty good. Giants have been good as well. So this is a very interesting group. It's difficult to say which two. You think PaperX, but outside of that, which of Crew, EDG, or Giants make it? Difficult to call, I would say. Then Group B, EG play FPX. That should be a win for EG, you'd think, because the Chinese teams outside of EDG don't have that much faith in them. Then Foot Esports versus T1. So this is a pretty nice group, I think, for EG to get through. They should definitely be favourite to get through this. Then you get to Group C, and this is pretty big. At least 3 of the teams. You've got Fnatic versus Zeta, that's round 1, and then NRG versus BLG. So that's the other kind of Chinese team alongside FPX and EDG that, you know, you wouldn't expect them them to be able to do that much against a top international team like NRG, but honestly, who knows how good those Chinese teams are going to get very quickly. But in this one, there's 3 good teams, I would say. BLG I'm not so convinced by, but Fnatic should beat Zeta, but then, you know, Zeta versus NRG for that final qualification spot, theoretically, that's going to be pretty tricky to call. Zeta have looked good in that last chance qualifier. So Group B, I think, is the weakest. Group A is tricky to call, as I think is Group C in some respects, but then you get down to Group D, and it's absolutely stacked. Like, this group is pretty insane. It's actually really insane. So you've got Liquid versus Na'Vi. Let's not forget, Liquid won the EMEA playoffs in their own region. Yes, they aren't as good as Fnatic. They lost to Fnatic when it mattered, and Fnatic won the tournament anyway. But Liquid are still a really good team. They are the only team really to have actually beaten Fnatic this year in a fair fight. So they've got potential. Na'Vi have looked suspect for sure, and I wouldn't expect them to get through this group on this current evidence, but they still on paper should be pretty damn good. Then you've got DRX, who always tend to do well in groups. That's what's so interesting about this DRX versus Loud matchup that we're getting again, just because DRX always are good in groups, but Louds have been, despite looking kind of suspect lately, they're still Loud. They're still the world champions. Theoretically, they should be good here. So calling this group is tough, and I would say that Na'Vi, I would not expect them to make it, but then one of DRX, Loud, and Liquid has to go here, and Na'Vi could definitely still make it. So Group D is mega stacked, and it's difficult to predict that one. I would say Group B probably has the weakest selection of teams, but like, the groups are really interesting, and we'll see how this goes. As FNS says, Group D is kind of mid, no? I mean, yeah, like, D is going to be difficult to stop, and Som says, look at these groups. So, wow, tricky stuff. But FNS, obviously getting ready, the NRG guys for that BLG game. I think their group is okay. It's always nice when you get a first round game you're going to be confident to win, but who knows, maybe BLG can come up with something special and upset these guys. So it's a couple of weeks away now. This was some of the reaction from the other guys on the roster, but August the 6th, I believe, in Los Angeles is when the World Championship is going to officially begin. So very much enjoy to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.